What's up, everyone? Welcome back to the channel. Boozer here. Thanks for stopping by. Hopefully, you guys having a great day so far. In today's video, we're going to be talking about the Plarium announcements here regarding some progressive events that are happening on the weekend that will be running alongside the Varkos Heroes Path. If you guys missed the announcement yesterday, there will be a guaranteed event for Varkos, one of the headline champions for the Web of Corruption, and that's going to be happening tomorrow. Now, we do have a couple of progressive events happening as well. Varkos' Heroes Path event will be lasting 4 days. It looks like we will be having two progressive events, each lasting 2 days each. So let's jump right into it. Let's talk about the champions that are going to be offered. I'm going to break this up here. This is going to be the first progressive event for the first 2 days, 48 hours of the Heroes Path. So the Heroes Path and the first progressive will be opening on Thursday, tomorrow. Let's talk about this. So first up, we do have Folan Silverheart. So Folan Silverheart was the fusion 2 months ago. I think what Plarium is doing is giving people an opportunity to get some of these champions that they might have missed, so that maybe they can get the gifts, for example, or at least give the give those champions up to be chased. So we got Folan here, decent champion overall. I really like his A3, which gives you the block passives. This is really strong. Although block passives, you kind of think about it, it's like, oh, it's an arena kind of debuff. It's actually really strong, even just in wave content. So I found that he does really good, even in like hard faction wars, for example. The AoE decreased defense is also very good. He hits okay, not particularly insane. But this ability does have the ability to scale up. So it deals 10% more damage for each to each enemy for each debuff on them. So if you have a team that can synergize well with this can deal some decent damage. And ignoring unkillable and block damage is pretty nice. Overall, his A3 can do some good smacking, pretty decent against Mercurial. Also, it's basically a triple hit against a single target, and then it comes in with an AoE attack. His passive is okay. It's a little bit of damage reduction, and he has this interesting little bit here where 30% chance to turn weak hits into normal hits. In arena, that could be the difference between a win and a loss, but in PvE content, it's probably much less impactful. But overall, still a very decent champion. Up next, we have Grutha from the Ogren tribes. Now, I did play test as champion. Her kit is relatively simple, but she does hit pretty hard. Her multipliers are good, but her base attack is low. So 1400 base attack here, which means getting her attack up high is going to be difficult, but her abilities are pretty decent. She got an AoE attack here, which is going to come in for an extra hit if her attack is higher than the enemies. She's got an A2 here on a 3-turn cooldown, another AoE attack with an HP equalizer against the enemy, which is pretty nice. It's kind of like an extra bit of damage. It also ignores 30% of the target's defense if the average HP of the enemy is above 50%. If it's below 50%, then you get an extra hit in. Increases the champion's attack by 10% per enemy killed by this skill. Again, it's quite a decent ability. You're going to get either extra ignore defense or an extra hit. This ability on the A3 is a 3-turn cooldown. Another AoE, it's a double hit AoE this time. Before attacking, she increases her own damage with increased crit damage and shatter, which is really nice. Each first hit decreases target's defense by 10%. Second hit destroys max HP by 10%, and then she gets an extra turn if she kills an enemy. Again, these are very good damage dealing abilities. Obviously, you have damage scaling here, and then you have extra turn mechanics if you kill stuff, and then you have self buffing also. All her abilities are AoE. And her passive is actually really, really good too, especially for this turn meter bit here, where if her HP is full, her crit hits will actually give her turn meter instead. So all her hits are AoE. She does multiple AoEs on some abilities also. So she's going to get a bunch of turn meter here from her passive. She also gives herself a little bit of healing and shielding. Not a bad champion, a little bit plain Jane-ish, but I think for Faction War, she actually performs quite well. And from my testing, I was pleasantly surprised. So not a bad champion, for at least for this faction. Moving on to the next champion on this list, we have Kosk of Two Skins from the Lizardman faction here. Now, I didn't get a chance to play test this champion, but on paper, it looks pretty good. It looks like a pretty decent poisoner. He's got an A1 here, double hit, has a blah, 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 what is it? 40% chance of increasing the duration of all enemy debuffs by 1 turn. If the second hit does not increase the duration of all enemy debuffs, instantly activates all poisons instead. So it looks like you're going to get some value out of this. The A2 here on a 3-turn cooldown is a single target double hit. Before attacking, he places increased accuracy on himself. First hit will place poison sensitivity and 2 poisons. Second hit applies debuff spread. taking all poison debuffs and the poison sensitivity from the target and placing them on all enemies. So it's not taking all of the debuffs, it's just taking the poison and the poison sensitivity. A little bit of a bummer there. And this increased accuracy only goes on himself. There's the A3 on a 3-turn cooldown. It's an AoE attack. Places decreased attack on all enemies for 2 turns. Increases this champion's turn meter by 20% for each decreased attack placed. And it's going to detonate all poison debuffs on all enemies. Not a bad ability. It's a decreased attack turn meter boost. And then it's a poison detonator, so not a bad ability. And of course, he can place his own poisons here on everybody. Passive, this champion is immune to poison, stuns, and decreased speed. Increases this champion's damage dealt by 5%. And ignore defense effects by 3% for each active debuff on the enemy team. Whenever this champion is attacked by an enemy under a debuff placed by this champion, counterattack using the default skill. Comes in with 1542 attack, which is pretty decent. I suppose it's not a bad champion. You can come in with the A2, put a bunch of poisons on everybody, and then come in with a decreased attack, turn meter boost, and then detonate everything. It's not bad. I would probably like the turn meter boost on the A2 so that you can cycle through into your A3 right away, so that you can get value from the poisons right away. I mean, it's probably a PvE champion here, maybe a boss champion, since you can increase the duration or do more activating. But seems like a not bad champion for overall progression. After that, we have Wallmaster here from the High Elves faction. I don't have this champion. Very decent, very useful champion here. Has the ability to solo Spider hard 10 relatively easily. Very useful kit. He's got an A1 AoE attack, a little bit of turn meter boosting. The A2 is where the money's at with the 3-turn cooldowns. The AoE double hit has a 100% chance of placing block buffs with the decreased attack. Also gives him a turn meter fill, and the attack is based off of enemy max HP. Now, the multipliers on this is going to be pretty low, so you need some pretty good gear to cap him out. But there's a lot of stuff going on here, right? You got turn meter boost, you got 2 good debuffs, and then, of course, you got the max HP hit. The A3 here, lots of self buffs happening, and then the extra turn, which is really nice. And his passive gives him some, a little bit of survivability by boosting up his max HP. Overall, pretty good champion. Overall, for like general progression, can be quite decent for like Hydra content. And like I said, his big thing is putting him in Slayer gear and then soloing Spider hard 10, for example. But yeah, I might be interested in this champion depending on what the other champions are for the progressive events. The last champion for the non-voids here we have from the Skinwalkers. We have Gnishak. Here we go. Gnishak Vermin Lord. It was a Christmas fusion, I think 3 or 4 years ago now. I'm not too sure, but very good champion. One of the better bomb champions in the game. It's got an A1 triple hit, has a 50% chance of placing a bomb. The bombs from Gnishak actually do better against PvE champions. So for example, like bosses and stuff where they exceed the 200k HP, then the bombs will deal double damage, which is really nice. His A2 here on a 3-turn cooldown is an AoE attack, decrease attack, and then he places the bombs on everybody for, it decreased the duration of the bomb detonation by 1 turn, and the increased duration of all poisons by 1 turn. And then the A3 is where he places the bombs. So the A3 on the 4-turn cooldown will place 2 bombs for 2 turns, and then he gets an extra turn. And again, the bombs from here will do double damage against higher max HP enemies, over 200,000. So this is what you really want from a bomb champion. Even though the bombs are landing for 2 turns duration, he does get an extra turn, comes back in with the A2, and then reduces the detonation by 1 on the A2. Now, Gnishak actually works surprisingly well in like a 6-piece deflection set if you want to use them to remove Mercurial, for example, because he has the ability to AoE attack, place bombs, which would remove 2 stacks of deflection, and then you go back into an extra turn, and then you come in with the A2 ability here. So if you have your Gnishak built with 6-piece deflection, you could theoretically come in and remove all the stacks of Mercurial right away with just 1 turn from him. Extra PvE viability here is his passive. When the bombs go off, that leaves behind 2 poisons that are protected. It's just some extra damage, especially good against bosses. Overall, he's just a great champion, and he's going to be up for grabs. Now let's talk about the Void champions here for day 1. So first up, we have one of the Web of Corruption champions. Is going to be probably the main event, right? We haven't seen any event for this champion yet, or at least has been announced yet. We got Rhea the Moor. She is the boss champion from the event dungeon. She is going to be up for grabs on the first day from the Void Shards. We got an A1 double hit, some ignore defense to here, some healing, and an extra turn if she kills somebody. The A2 on a 3-turn cooldown, it's a single target double hit, places weaken. Will ignore block damage and 15% of the target's defense without any conditions. Will ignore an additional 5% of the target's defense for each debuff on, for each buff on this champion, so up to 35%, so 7 buffs, which gives her a total of 50% ignore defense. Reduce the cooldown of this champion's Discordian Fury skill by 1 turn and places stun on all enemies for 1 turn. If this attack kills an enemy, this cannot be blocked or resisted. That's going to be the A3, right? So she's going to reduce the cooldown of the A3, which is a crazy attack. It's on a 3-turn cooldown. AoE triple hit. Before attacking, places increased attack on herself. Each hit has a 100% chance of stealing 1 random buff from each enemy. Fills the champion's turn meter by 10% for each buff stolen. Now, obviously, this requires accuracy for you to be stealing stuff, but her passive can, negate all that. This champion deals 30% more damage when he's under 3 or more buffs. That's great. That happens relatively frequently, and you can control that. While the champion is under increased attack, which she places herself, block debuffs, and Veil at the same time prevents this champion's death, and their debuffs and instant effects cannot be resisted. So ideally, you want all of these buffs on her. Increase attack, which she has herself, but you need block debuffs and Veil, and then suddenly she doesn't require accuracy and she cannot die. So it's an amazing passive, but it's difficult to kind of coordinate together. You could definitely have this on her to start. Like, you can have block debuffs, you can have Veil on her from gear and relics. To start the fight, she can place increased attack on her when she uses the A3. So if she's locked out, then she can't. But after the fight progresses, you really want another champion that can support her by placing the buff on. So then you can get more value out of her passive. Alternatively, you build her with accuracy. So similar to somebody like Marius, where you can actually steal some buffs from the enemy. Now, the thing with Marius is that he does have an increased accuracy, which makes it so that he doesn't require a lot of accuracy. So there's a couple ways to build her. She is a nice damage dealer and all that, but it really depends how you're going to manage her buffs, how you want to manage this ability, whether you want to go, high accuracy and try to make sure you steal the buffs, or you just want to forego this and just go for full damage and then try to work around her passive. So she's a very interesting champion. In terms of overall Void champions for 2006, I would say she's probably one of the weaker ones because the Void champions in 2026 have been absolutely insane. Like, we're talking like Hecaton, Tection, Solinar, like that level. Like, I don't think she's at that level of champion, but she's definitely very good, right? After Rhea, we have from the Shadowkins, we have where is he? Onryo. Onryo Ayasu. So very cool champion. Recently, I've been trying to use this guy a little bit more in live arena. He has an interesting passive here that basically, spreads out his damage to the entire enemy team. And this little bit of damage can help you remove the total guard stacks from Mercurial, which is really nice. He has a double hit on his A1. He has a double hit on his A2. He's a double hit on his A3. So that means it's going to be 2 Mercurial stacks removed every time he attacks. His A1 can actually be a triple hit because if you're attacking an enemy, it's a quad hit. If you're attacking an enemy under a buff and is from the undead hordes, but it's going to be a triple hit if they're not from the undead hordes. I like him. I think he's really, really good. He's threatening. He has a block revive on his A2. And he has a big ignore defense ability on his A3. Now, this ability is a little bit limiting, I find. I have a little bit of a gripe on this because the Stone Skin ignore is great, but I'm finding that finding targets with Stone Skin for you to kill is not as common as I thought. Obviously, it's going to be less common now because there's more Mercurial and stuff happening, but I would say it's even less common than I initially thought. So what I would have really liked to see was this go through block damage or unkillable, as well as this other stuff. But I think it's a little bit too much to ask. It's a really, really strong ability. But Onryo, I think definitely will see a lot more use. So if you have them, make sure you guys pull them out and try them out in live arena to deal with Mercurial. And lastly, for the Void champions on day 1, we have from the Skinwalkers, we have Leorius. Leorius here, his kit's a little bit outdated. I think he doesn't hit particularly hard unless you take advantage of his passive, where he gains He gains damage by the HP lost. I like that he has unkillable on himself when he suffers fatal hit. Sorry, and then he has multiple AOE's with multiple attacks. But he's not going to hit particularly hard nowadays. There's lots of lockout abilities in the meta, and if his A2 gets locked out, then he's not going to gain this benefit, which is really nice. Like this champion's immune to all this hard CC if this A2 is not on cooldown. He's also in a pretty stacked damage dealing faction, the Skinwalkers. But yeah, he's still a void champion. He can still do some work for you guys. But wouldn't say he's going to be top tier nowadays in arena. So, anyways, that's going to be the first day of progressives. Some pretty good champs here. It really depends on what you guys are looking for. Obviously, Folan, if you guys are looking for that final piece for your little gift. Wallmaster, like I said, very good champion. Gnishak, very good champion. Also, as for the voids, I will obviously prioritize Rhea or Onryo if you guys are fishing for those champions. And if none of these champions are enticing to you, let's take a look at day 2, or not day 2, but the second progressive event that's going to be happening on Saturday. All right, so the first progressive event will happen for 48 hours, and here is the second progressive event I have up right now. So again, looks like Plarium giving people an opportunity to pick up these Web of Corruption champions in these progressive events. So first up, we have Hagaba, the Nest Maid. So Hagaba, the Nest Maid, the fusion that just is happening or just ended. And she's from the Dark Elves. Very important champion because you guys probably exchanged her for one of your tier 1 fusion token exchange champions. Haven't found an extreme use case for her. Honestly, from my testing, I did not find her overly impressive. I will say her ability here is decent. The steal all bombs from enemies and then placing bombs is really, really nice. However, I think in current meta where you're dealing with mercurial champions, this is going to be difficult to extract value from. This ability is also very low value considering that if she doesn't land any HP burns or bombs on the enemy, this is just an AoE attack that places leech, which is very poor. Her A1 though is very decent. It's 100% chance to land HP burn. And she has a pretty interesting passive here where when an enemy tries to hard CC her or lock out her skills, she's going to place a bomb on them that detonates after 1 turn. And that bomb will ignore block debuffs. So that's kind of interesting. But at least I found in my testing that the bombs placed aren't going to do enough damage to, basically kill most champions. So you're really relying, on her placing these bombs from the A3 to kind of finish off enemies. Personally speaking, I don't think she's going to be an insane champion for anybody. You guys let me know in the comments below if you guys found a use case for her. Up next, we have another Web of Corruption champion. This is going to be Talena. Where is it? Talena Solseer. So she was the guaranteed champion from the Deck of Fate last week, or was it 2 weeks ago? Very solid champion, speed in all battles aura. It's got an A1, instant activation for poisons. It's got an A2 here, places poisons on everybody. It's also an attack with the turn meter boost on its return cooldown. And then the A3 here, this is obviously her main ability. She places increased accuracy on herself. And then she comes in and she reduces the duration of all enemy buffs by 2 turns. And she comes in with the 100% chance to increase the cooldown of all enemy skills by 2 turns. Really, really strong ability. It's similar to Fabian's in that it does decrease duration and increases cooldown, but it's only 2 turns for each instead of 3 turns that Fabian has. But the big thing about her is that she does bring increased accuracy. So increased accuracy will allow her to use these effects on champions that Fabian otherwise cannot. Because for example, if you build a 700 accuracy Fabian, it's going to get resisted a good chunk of the time by a champion with like 800 resistance, 900 resistance, 1000 resistance. But if you have a Talena and then she places increased accuracy on herself, that same 700 accuracy on Talena will now be landing her effects on that 1000 resistance champion because her accuracy will be increased by 50%. So it's a big difference. So even though the effect and ability of this skill is not as strong as Fabian, the fact that it actually can go through a champion like a high resistance champion makes it quite valuable, right? So also, she's a secondary lockout. So if you just have Fabian, she is now your secondary lockout, which is amazing. Just gives you guys more options, especially for live arena picks and all that stuff. She's also actually pretty good for just general PvE content too. It's just wave content, faction wars and stuff. She's actually quite decent. A little bit of turn meter boosting here on her passive, and then this decreased crit rate and crit damage for each poison on them is actually pretty nice. It's actually pretty nice. 110 base speed, so you can build her fast. I really like her. I think she's a great champion. She's performed better than I expected. Moving on, we have from the Skinwalkers again, we have Mighty Uko. Mighty Uko, very decent champion here. We have the speed in all battles aura. Where you see there, he is 109 base speed, 20% speed in all battles aura. It's got Team Revive here on a 4-turn cooldown, bringing increased speed and block damage. This ability here on a 4-turn cooldown, it should be a 3-turn cooldown for 2026. It's an AoE attack with a double hit. Also removes 2 random buffs from targets. If there's no buffs, then he's going to land block buffs with decreased accuracy. It's also got an A1 AoE decreased attack, which is very useful. And his passive can be super, super annoying because it has a chance to steal random buffs when buffs are happening. Pretty cool champ. Would love to see this get reduced to a 3-turn cooldown. Not a bad candidate for deflection, 6-piece deflection set to help you go through Mercurial. He has multiple AoEs in his kit. So not a bad champion for that, and a pretty strong carry for this faction if you need him for faction wars. Up next, we have a brand new champion here from the Argonite faction, which is also kind of interesting. I don't think this champion is particularly strong, but yeah, 115 base speed with the speed in arena battles aura, 28%. Got an A1 triple hit, chance to steal turn meter stuff. Also has a turn meter fill for your allies. The A2 here on a 3-turn cooldown is a full enemy strip. Places decreased speed and weaken on the enemy. Not too bad. It's a non-hit, so it's not going to be great against Mercurial, but it's going to be pretty decent against PvE waves. The A3 here on a 3-turn cooldown, he's going to place block passive skills and enfeeble on one target, and then also steals turn meter from that one target. Pretty good shutdown ability for one target. The passive here places 100% ensnare on the enemy with the lowest turn meter for 2 turns at the end of this champion's turn. Cannot be resisted. Whenever an enemy has their turn meter increased by a skill, also fills this champion's turn meter by 5%, by 15%. So a lot of turn meter stuff here, right? The A1 turn meter stuff, the passive turn meter, the ensnare, which is also basically ignoring turn meter for your enemy. So it's a debuff that shuts down turn meter. He has decreased speed. I'm surprised he doesn't have decreased turn meter or increased turn meter stuff on his abilities here. Oh, I guess his A3 is a steel turn meter. It would have been nice to see this as an AoE ability, actually, not a single target one. But overall, I don't think he's going to be particularly strong. He might be helpful in like faction wars and PvE waves a little bit, but I don't think he's going to be super strong. Don't like that it's going to be arena only aura here. I would have preferred a all battles aura. But yeah, 115 base speed, very, very nice. And then lastly, for the non-void champions, we have from the Dwarves faction, we have Osgrun, the Defiler. 109 base speed. He's similar to Arman's in a lot of ways. He's got the same aura, speed in arena battles. He's got an A1 similar to Arman's. Chance to increase the cooldown of a random active skill. Also has a turn meter fill for all allies by 10%. Very good A1. He's got an A2 here. He's on a 3-turn cooldown. 100% chance to remove all buffs from all enemies. Decreases turn meter of all enemies whose turn meter is equal to or lower than 50 by 20%. If the enemy's turn meter is more than 50% full, decrease it to 50% instead. Has a 100% chance to place stun for 1 turn, whose turn meter was reduced to 50%. So if the enemy has higher than 50% turn meter, it's going to drop to 50, and then you're going to get a stun off. It's on a 3-turn cooldown. It's a very good ability. And then he has a ally attack here on a 4-turn cooldown with the increased attack and shatter. Very good ally attack, very good ability for Mercurial, obviously. And then the passive here, a little bit interesting. It's going to catch people off guard if you're not paying attention, but when an ally is killed, he instantly activates his stun and turn meter pushback ability, and then allies will inflict more damage against enemies under stun. Pretty cool champion, a little bit more offensively oriented than somebody like Arman's, a little bit less crowd control, but still a very good champion for like wave control and stuff like that. Can be useful for arena purposes. Let's jump into the Void champions here for day 2. So starting off here, we have Cardio from the Sacred Order faction. Where's Cardio? Cardio, very good champion still. Speed in all battles, or a very useful champion. Has the ally attack here with the increased crit rate, crit damage. And then he has a very solid 3-turn full team cleanse with a block debuff and a revive on death. Full team heal here as well on the A1. Solid champion, very useful champion, amazing looking champion. and then one of the few champions with the full team ally attack in this game. So very nice. After that, we have from the Night Revenants, we have White King Narses. White King Narses, here you go. Big hitter, big hitting champion will ignore, what is it? Well, damage inflicted by a skill cannot be decreased or by enemy passives or masteries. So this ability can hit pretty hard, right? It's an AoE attack, ignores 25% of the target's defense, extra hit against shield and strengthen. So this is where you want to bring him in against enemies with shields and strengthen. And it's a pretty big blast, right? You get the extra hit coming off, and then you cannot, prevent this damage by passives or masteries, which is a pretty big deal. His A3 also brings a block revive here if the target has three or more buffs. And you have some pretty big damage scaling here based on the amount of buffs on the enemy or yourself. Has really good synergies here with White Queen and Korra, of course. Very, very strong stuff. And his passive fully ignores shield and strength. And so obviously you bring him in and he's going to be very effective against those types of champions with shield and strengthen, namely somebody like Marichka. Obviously Narcissus came into the scene when Taras and Marichka were, top, and they just need an answer to deal with those two champions. Well, Narcissus was that answer. And then lastly, for the Void champions here, we have from the Orcs, we have Warlord. Warlord, very good champion, one of the lockout options you guys have. 100 base speed, which makes him a little bit slower to build out, but his lockout ability is still very strong. Full enemy lockout with a 100% chance to lock out their skills fully. And then he has the 60% chance here to fully deplete a target's turn meter, which is very strong. Very, very strong. Nice little bit of healing and some sustain for your team on the A2, and then a small chance to increase the duration of all debuffs on the target. The original GOAT in terms of lockout champions there, he's going to be up for grabs on day 2. So for day 2 here, let's just go over this list of champions here. So if you guys don't have Talena Associate, I would say Talena Associate is going to be top for you guys. Mighty Uko's okay, decent. It's kind of in the same kind of area, like A tier champion as Osgron. Pelagus, probably not very good. I'd say probably like a B tier champion, but honestly, I might be interested in this champion because I don't have too many Argonites, and then he could probably be decent against waves. That's kind of what I'm thinking. And then Hagaba here, I would say, is probably the worst. But you guys might need Hagaba if you guys skipped him. Maybe you guys need him for the coalition event, for quests or something. So I can see some people going for her there. For the Void champions, these champions are pretty old. It really depends on what you guys need. White King's a good, decent Void damage dealer. If you have Ancora already, could be a decent mix. Cardio, generally very useful champion. Can be helpful for Hard Fire Knight, especially. Warlord, if you don't have a lockout option, he is a separate lockout option. Also for the Orcs faction, he's going to be very strong. Lockout and stuff against waves is still very good. I'm not 100% sure which day I would probably go for. I'm kind of leaning maybe for Wallmaster on day 1 for myself personally, or maybe I lean into into progressive number 2 and go for Pelagus. I'm not too sure. I wouldn't be like over the moon to get either of them. And the odds of getting either of them are actually very low. But, if we're going to commit, 20, 30, 40 sacred shards, not saying that I'm going to commit that much, but it would be nice to have a progressive that you kind of want. Anyways, guys, so here's the list of both progressive events put up together. Like I said, both events will be 48 hours each. All right, so starting at the same time as the Varkos Heroes Path and then ending at the same time. So yeah, make sure you guys are pulling fully aware of which progressive is active. Like I said, for me personally, probably War Master, maybe Pelagus, maybe, I'm not too sure. But see how I feel, I guess. Anyways, guys, let me know in the comments below what you guys think about this. Which day are you guys interested in participating in? Are you guys excited about the Varkos Heroes Path event that's happening? Hopefully you guys are ready for all of that. It's going to be shard and dungeon diving. So that's how you're going to get points for his Heroes Path. We'll do a full Heroes Path breakdown once it launches tomorrow. Anyways, guys, let me know in the comments below what you guys think. Thanks for watching until the end, guys. Have a great rest of your day, and I'll see you guys in the next video.